You're too old-fashioned, Richard, Marcus said, leaning back in his ergonomic chair in our firm's glass-walled conference room. The industry is changing. We need fresh perspectives. I looked around at my other 3 partners, people I'd helped build this firm with for the past 20 years. They avoided my gaze, suddenly very interested in their laptops or the spectacular view from our 40th floor office. Fresh perspectives, I repeated slowly. You mean forcing me into early retirement at 58? I'm Richard Chen, senior partner, or at least I was until this moment, at Chen Williams Associates, one of Boston's most prestigious management consulting firms. For 2 decades, I'd built our client portfolio through old-fashioned values, personal relationships, unwavering integrity, and meticulous attention to detail. The board has already approved the restructuring. Sarah Williams, my oldest friend and co-founder, said quietly, your retirement package is quite generous. I studied her face, remembering how we'd started this firm in my garage, with nothing but a shared vision and 2 laptops. Now she couldn't even meet my eyes. And my clients? I asked, though I already knew their answer. They'll be distributed among the remaining partners, Marcus replied smugly. Don't worry, we'll take good care of them. Marcus Thompson, the youngest partner, had joined the firm 5 years ago, bringing his aggressive growth strategies and modern business approaches. He'd been pushing for digital transformation, automated client management, and what he called streamlined relationship protocols. What he didn't know, what none of them remembered, was that our client contracts had a very specific structure, one I'd insisted on from the beginning. I'll need time to review the retirement package, I said, gathering my papers calmly. Take all day, Marcus said generously, but we'll need your answer by tomorrow. The announcement goes out at noon. As I walked back to my office, I passed rows of young consultants in their sleek modern workspaces. Many of them nodded respectfully. They'd learned early that my old-fashioned methods got results that their fancy algorithms couldn't match. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa, our head of legal operations. Just heard. Need to talk ASAP. I smiled slightly. Lisa had been with us for 15 years, and she was one of the few who understood exactly how our client contracts were structured. In my office, I closed the door and opened my safe. Inside was a thick folder labeled Client Agreements, Original Versions. 20 years of carefully crafted contracts, each one personally negotiated, each one containing a clause that my partners had apparently forgotten. Lisa arrived minutes later, closing the door behind her. They don't remember, do they? She asked without preamble. About the personal service clause? I replied, apparently not. She shook her head in disbelief. Every major client contract we have, literally billions in annual revenue, is bound to you personally, not the firm. You. I nodded, remembering all the times Marcus had mocked my insistence on personal relationships, on meeting every client face to face, on maintaining direct contact instead of relying on account managers. How long before they realize? Lisa asked. Let's see, I said, checking my watch. They'll announce my retirement at noon tomorrow. The clients will be notified immediately after. I'd say, about 3 hours before the first calls start coming in. My phone buzzed again, this time from James Morrison, CEO of our largest client, Morrison Manufacturing. Richard? Heard rumors about changes at CWA. Can we discuss? I showed Lisa the message. Make that 2 hours. What are you going to do? She asked. I opened my laptop and began typing. Exactly what I've always done. Take care of my clients. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, dressed in my usual impeccable suit. The retirement package sat unopened on my desk. I hadn't bothered to review it. Instead, I'd spent the evening making calls to key clients, not telling them anything specific, just checking in as I'd always done. At 11:45 a.m., Marcus strutted into my office. All set for the announcement? He asked cheerfully. Don't worry, we've prepared a nice speech about your years of service. Actually, I replied, I have an announcement of my own to make. I've emailed the board requesting an emergency meeting at 2 p.m. Marcus frowned. That won't be necessary. Everything's been decided. Nevertheless, I said calmly, I think they'll want to hear what I have to say. At noon exactly, the firm-wide email went out. Chen Williams Associates announces the retirement of founding partner Richard Chen, effective immediately. Please join us in celebrating his 20 years of service. I sat in my office, watching the digital clock on my wall, counting down. 3, 2, 1. My phone exploded with notifications, not from other partners or employees, but from clients, major clients. James Morrison was first. Just got the email. My contract is with you, not CWA. Call me immediately. Then Alexandra Peters, CEO of Peters Global. Richard, our entire Asian expansion strategy is under your personal oversight. What's going on? And Robert Chen, no relation, from Chen Technologies. Our agreement specifically requires your direct involvement. This retirement announcement violates multiple clauses. At 12:30 p.m., Lisa appeared in my doorway, trying to hide a smile. Legal department is getting flooded with client inquiries, she reported. Apparently, they're all reviewing their contracts and finding some interesting clauses. I nodded, continuing to work on my laptop. How's Marcus taking it? He's locked in his office with the contract review team. Sarah looks like she's seen a ghost. At 1 p.m., Sarah finally came to see me. She looked shaken. Richard, she began, we seem to have a situation with the client contracts. Do we? I replied mildly, not looking up from my work. The personal service clause. It's in every major contract. They can all terminate immediately if you're not directly involved. Interesting oversight in your restructuring plan. She sank into a chair. Richard, this could destroy the firm. We're talking about billions in annual revenue. As I've always said, I remarked, personal relationships matter. What do you want? She asked quietly. I finally looked up. Want? I don't want anything. Sarah, I'm too old-fashioned, remember? Not suited for the modern business world. Please, she said, we can revise the retirement package, adjust the terms. The board meeting is at 2 p.m., I replied. I'll present my position then. The next hour was chaos. Partners rushed between offices, legal teams pored over contracts, and clients continued calling. I responded to each client personally, just as I always had, telling them I'd update them after the board meeting. At 2 p.m. sharp, I walked into the boardroom. Every seat was filled. Partners, board members, legal advisors. Marcus sat slumped in his chair, his earlier smugness replaced by barely concealed panic. Thank you all for coming, I began, setting my laptop on the table. I understand there's some concern about our client contracts. Concern? Marcus burst out. Every major client we have is threatening to walk. This is a disaster. Perhaps, I suggested, we should have discussed the implications of forcing out the partner who holds those relationships before making announcements. The board chairman cleared his throat. Mr. Chen, what exactly are you proposing? I opened my laptop and projected a document onto the screen. I'm proposing a new structure for Chen Williams Associates, one that returns to our founding principles of personal service and direct client relationships. Meaning what? Sarah asked. Meaning I'll maintain my role as managing partner for client relationships. Marcus and his team can handle their digital transformation projects, but not at the expense of our core values. And if we refuse? Marcus challenged. I smiled slightly. Then I'll open my own firm. And since every major client is bound to me personally, not CWA, they'll be free to follow. I already have written commitments from our top 10 clients to do exactly that. The room erupted in chaos. Board members demanded explanations. Partners argued amongst themselves. Legal advisors huddled over documents. The chairman banged his gavel. Enough, Mr. Chen. You've made your point. What exactly do you want? 3 things, I said calmly. First, I maintain my current position and client relationships, with full autonomy over how those relationships are managed. Heads nodded around the table. Second, we create a dual track for client management, traditional personal service for those who want it, and Marcus's modern approach for those who prefer it, but no forced transitions. Marcus started to protest, but Sarah kicked him under the table. And third, I continued, we establish a mentoring program. I'll train the next generation in relationship building, showing them why personal connections matter more than algorithms. The chairman looked around the room. All in favor? The vote was unanimous. even Marcus reluctantly raising his hand. One more thing, I added. Lisa takes over as head of our legal department. With a partnership track, she's the only one who bothered to read the contracts carefully. After the meeting, I returned to my office to find it already swamped with flowers and gifts from clients who'd heard I was staying. James Morrison had sent a 50-year-old bottle of scotch with a note. Never doubted you for a minute. Here's to old-fashioned values. Sarah appeared in my doorway, looking sheepish. I'm sorry, Richard. We got caught up in Marcus's vision of modernization and forgot what really matters. The relationship business is about relationships, I replied, something the algorithms haven't figured out yet. Over the next few months, Chen Williams Associates underwent a transformation, but not the one Marcus had envisioned. We maintained our traditional client service model alongside the new digital initiatives, letting clients choose their preferred approach. Interestingly, even our most tech-savvy clients opted for the personal touch. As one CEO put it, algorithms don't understand nuance, and consultants who hide behind them don't understand business. Marcus eventually left to start his own digital-first consulting firm. Last I heard, he was struggling to attract major clients. Lisa thrived in her new role, training a new generation of lawyers to read not just the letters of contracts, but the relationships behind them. And me? I kept doing what I'd always done, building and maintaining personal relationships, one handshake at a time. One afternoon, about a year after the attempted coup, I sat with a group of young consultants, sharing stories over coffee. But how did you know? One of them asked. How did you know to protect yourself with those contract clauses 20 years ago? I smiled, remembering the lessons my father had taught me about business in his small grocery store in Boston's Chinatown. Because relationships are built on trust, I said, but contracts should be built on wisdom. The trick is knowing the difference. My phone buzzed. A message from James Morrison, competitor trying to pitch us their AI-driven consulting solution. Told them we prefer the old-fashioned way, your way. I showed the message to the young consultants. See, some things never go out of style. As I looked around at their eager faces, I realized that my old-fashioned methods would live on long after I actually did retire, not because of contracts or clauses, but because they worked. Because in a world of increasing automation and digital distance, personal relationships matter more than ever. And that's a lesson worth protecting, even if it takes a near disaster to prove it. The following week, we had our annual client appreciation dinner. As I looked around the room at the faces I'd known for decades, at the relationships I'd built and protected, I felt a deep satisfaction. Marcus's digital transformation vision had its place, but it would never replace the value of a firm handshake, a shared meal, a remembered birthday, a crisis weathered together. Sarah caught my eye from across the room and raised her glass slightly. She, at least, had remembered why we started this firm in the first place. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what others tried to build, it's about protecting what you already built so well that they can't destroy it even when they try. Even if it takes a few carefully worded contracts to prove it. See.